Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for another episode of our Ask Me Anything series, hosted by Side. I'm Casey McLeod, Managing Broker of California for Side. Joining us today is Sara Sutachan. Sara is a C.A.R. veteran with over 18 years of experience in the organization, and she serves as the VP of Industry Relations and Strategic Initiatives, and she is also the co-founder of the Women Up movement, designed to close the gender gap in real estate. So thank you, Sara, for taking the time to share your insights with our community today.
Thank you, Casey. I'm happy to be here. And Side is a big supporter of Women Up, so thank you for your support and for always lifting other women up. Other women, you lift women, I lift other women.
So before we get started, I want to thank everyone who submitted their questions in advance. Sara will be addressing those questions during the discussion today. We will also open up to a live Q&A at the end, so please feel free to enter your questions using the Q&A feature on Zoom. So that's the little area on the bottom of your screen. There's a little Q&A button. Please click on there and enter all of your questions that you have for Sara. The recording of this session will be available on the same Zoom registration link, so you can access and share the event on demand after its conclusion. So let's go ahead and get started. So Sara, let's talk first about the latest changes in restrictions and policies. There have been a lot of easing in restrictions in the last couple of weeks. A lot of them actually went into effect, over the weekend or yesterday. So even though things are far from being back to normal, we're seeing a lot of easing starting to happen in the industry, and a lot of it affecting real estate. So let's talk about some of those changes in the landscape and what they mean for the day-to-day operations of the real estate business and the path towards recovery.
So yeah, as a matter of fact, a lot of your Side members are in the Bay Area, and the Bay Area lifted some restrictions yesterday, Monday, and that meant you can start to do in-person showings as long as you abide by, strict our best practices, but also, the social distancing rules. We're also hearing, so we have our best practices guidelines that are available to you. They're on carcovidupdates.org. And we are right now updating them because you may have heard the governor talked about yesterday that they'll be starting to open up or go into the phase 2 of our stay-at-home order, which means some retail flower shops. I've heard that you can now get flowers for your mom on Mother's Day, just a helpful hint. And those easing of restrictions will start this Friday. So our legal team has been amazing through this whole pandemic and crazy time, because they're working all hours of the night, and they're updating our best practices right now. So we have our current best practices that is on carcovidupdates.org, and we'll have an updated one by the end of this week.
Awesome. And the staff there, the call-in, the legal hotline, everybody there has been so fantastic to reach out to, so on top of all the information and the changes. So big kudos to C.A.R. staff for being available and being able to answer all those questions for us. Thank you.
Thank you for the shout out. Yeah, our team has been we've been remote since March 12th. We had been able to do this for a couple of years now, and we were just waiting to redo our building and having to do that. Yet this came in, and we were able to seamlessly work remotely, and our team has been just amazing at being there for our members and being able to answer phones. Like you said, we have a whole system in place for our calls to route to our cell phones, and it's been pretty great to watch and to be a part of.
It has, and so thank you for all of that. Next, I know there's been a lot of questions on the pandemic unemployment assistance, and so I know that we've gone through some phases of different programs as part of the CARES Act. So would you like to go into a deep dive on the PUA and how we can apply as independent contractors? And the different rules and regulations around that?
Yeah, so the pandemic unemployment assistance, and for ease of talking, I am going to use the acronym PUA. because it's just easier. But that was the first time, and I will say that NAR and C.A.R. lobbied heavily to get realtors into this relief program. It is the first time ever that realtors, business owners, self-employed, independent contractors are able to apply for unemployment benefits. And so we had been waiting for the application to finally drop in California. The EDD said, they would take 18 months to 2 years to update a quote unquote application process. And they were able to, the C.A.R.S. Act was signed into law on March 27th, and on April 28th, they dropped their application for independent contractors. So last Tuesday was the date. And I just want everybody to know that there's no running out of money. This isn't like the SBA program that earmarked only a little bit of money to help small businesses. This is actually through the California government, and then there's an additional $600 for the coronavirus pandemic. So, and that's available for the period of 4 months. So California's not going to run out of money. The federal government's not going to run out of money. So there is no huge rush to get it in, other than the need, right? We understand that a lot of realtors are suffering right now. But we've been able to handle thousands of calls on our COVID relief hotline and help them. And our legal team created a step-by-step guide to filling out the application, because there had been a lot of questions, and even questions that the EDD didn't foresee. So because they had never done this for independent contractors, self-employed workers, there's stuff in the application that's a little unclear. And so we created this guide. One of our attorneys was up at 5:30 on April 28th to see if she can get some screenshots, and she did. And it's been really helpful for realtors to go through the process of applying. So I do want to talk a little bit about the criteria. So we know that we have a lot of realtors are typically 1099 employees, right? 1099 workers. So they don't have a W-2, they don't have a boss, they're independent contractors, self-employed. So in order to be eligible for pandemic unemployment assistance, you cannot be eligible for the regular unemployment. That means you cannot have a W-2 income. That hurts some of our members, as they have had a W-2 for being a caregiver, or they've had a side hustle. And so in those instances, you have to go through the traditional W-2 route, and you have to go through that process and see if you can apply through that process. And if you're denied, then you can go back in and reapply under the PUA. So that's one piece. You've exhausted all other unemployment benefits, like W-2 unemployment. You're not receiving paid sick leave or other paid leave benefits. You don't have the ability to work remotely with pay. You're a U.S. citizen. You're authorized to work in the U.S. For any week of the PUA benefits claimed, and you cannot work because of COVID. And cannot work has been a big question. So if you're impacted if your normal duties of being a realtor is impacted, that means you can't work because of COVID, and that meets the criteria. So that's criteria. You want me to get into how much they get? Yeah, if they're eligible, or how do you want to go? Go ahead.
Yeah, all the information that you could share, the better. I know we've had a lot of agents that had a lot of questions on the PUA, on the small business loan portion, and so thank you for clearing that up, that, this money does not dry up like the small business loans did.
Right.
This is available for the agents, so the process for them and how they can go through that, because everybody's been affected by this.
For sure. And what we were telling people on the hotlines, and we had extended hours last week to help any member who needed help from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. once that application was live. And I was on the calls up through 8 o'clock at night, and people were just curious, and rightfully so. The EDD site was overwhelmed by traffic. So there was a lot of glitches. There were, they weren't able to get through on the phone lines. So we just told people, like, hey, take a breather. And I think the key aspect also is that not only are the monies not going to dry up, at least as far as we can see, but the benefits, as long as you're eligible, are retroactive to the date of eligibility. So let's just say, Casey, you stopped effectively working on March 19th, when the governor issued a stay-at-home order. You didn't apply until May 5th, let's just say. As long as you are eligible, your first initial payment will go all the way back to March 19th. So that helped relieve some of the callers some of the members that we talked to, put their mind at ease. That didn't help if somebody, had $20 in their account and was like, really needed the money. So we try to help them through as best we could. But that really did help kind of ease the mind that guess what? Even though you didn't apply today, you can apply tomorrow, you can apply next week. And we actually told people, apply this week, this week, May 4th, the week of May 4th, because we knew that the demand would go down. They could probably get their questions answered by the EDD if they had outstanding questions, because what we really just wanted were people to be able to fill it out accurately, honestly, and get their questions answered by the EDD. And that was just impossible last week. So, yeah, it was insane. So we created the step-by-step guide. That's we'll share the link in the comments. But if you go to CAR.org /PUA instructions, that's where you can find the instructions on how to apply. And it has screenshots. It has commonly asked questions. It has your full guide to applying if you are a 1099 non-W-2 worker in California. And then, go ahead.
I was going to say, have you heard any news on like turnaround time? How long is it taking to receive responses?
Yeah, so this was fun. I was actually on a call with a couple of members who really just didn't know the process, and she was reading. A couple of them, both of them were women, were reading through the what they saw on their screen, because we don't see it, we're just on the phone with them, so we try to walk through it as best we can, knowing what we did. But I was able to, she read to me, I'm getting, it says that my weekly benefit is $167, and then it says my total benefit is $6,500. And I said, wait a minute, read that again? Because what that meant was she received the benefits, and we learned that together on the phone, and it was an amazing experience to go through. But it just shows it wasn't quite clear to a lot of people that how it worked, and when would they get an email? Would they get like a notification? Like, how do they know they get benefits? And really what we advise is to go back in. They said it would take 24 to 48 hours to get an answer, as long as the EDD had all of the information that they need. And if they didn't have all the information they need, that they would let their people know once they log in. So we just told people, log back in, wait a couple days, log back in. So it really did happen in a matter of days, 2 to 3 days, for people to get their answer. And then I think the biggest wait time has been you get the benefit, but in order to spend the benefit, you have to wait physically for a Bank of America EDD debit card. And the EDD works with Bank of America, so it's all Bank of America, and so they have to physically mail you that debit card in order for you to be, again, using that debit card. So that was the kicker. That was what takes the most time. But once they get it, and also, like I said, those benefits are retroactive. So that's the funds that would be put into that account through that date. And then it would have been, the weekly benefit thereafter. So, and then the total benefit is also written on the screen. So we just say, apply, check back in 2 to 3 days.
Awesome.
Do you want to talk a little bit about, go ahead.
I was going to say, it's pretty quick. I mean, considering the amount of people applying and how long the EDD's taken in the past, that's pretty responsive.
Yeah, and you have to give them credit because they've moved that timeline up significantly. It used to be about 2 weeks, is what we've heard. Not going through the process myself, it was a little daunting to not know certain things to help our members, right? So it's been a ride, but very much a joy when people who are struggling are able to see that they are able to get benefits as a realtor. And so that's been beautiful. I do want to say, I did want to talk a little bit about how much realtors can receive through the PUA. So eligible people can get benefits anywhere between 167, which is the lower bound, to 450 per week, which is the upper bound. So, and the EDD has said, okay, you're going to get 167 as initial payment, and then then they ask you to self-certify, and they ask you to tell them how much was your 2019 net income, and they base your final benefit, your final weekly benefit on your previous earnings. So it can be anywhere between 167 and 450. And then on top of that, I mentioned this earlier, the CARES Act provided a temporary emergency increase for everyone eligible of $600 additional per week. And that's for 4 months between March 29th and July 25th. So that's a great boon for realtors. That means that eligible realtors will be able to expect anywhere between $767 to over $1,000, $1,050 per week, which is helpful, right? It's definitely helpful. And traditional, the 167, that amount is 39 weeks. So for up to 39 weeks, as long as you're still unemployed or underemployed.
Okay, and then go ahead, Sarah.
No, I was just going to say, a lot of this, like where to apply, what are the commonly asked questions? These are all on that one website. So it's car.org/PUA instructions. We also have a FAQ on the PUA eligibility, what it means for realtors, what it means for brokers. And so that's also on carcoronaupdates.org, which is our microsite. And there's a tab called Realtor Relief, and you can go directly to the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance and get all of those questions answered. And then we also have our COVID relief hotline. So if any of the side members that you have need help filling out the application, if they just have a question about eligibility, we're answering a lot of those. They can just call 213, hold on, what's my number? 213, eek, 1 second, 351-8450. And then there's SMS texting 24/7, but we have live support between 8:30 and 4:45.
Perfect. And we'll make sure we put those, that phone number and the different links that Sarah has mentioned in the chat so everybody has access to those. But Sarah, we did have a couple of questions come in on this topic that we're hoping that you can answer for us. And one of them is from an agent. She's a 1099 agent, but she also receives Social Security benefits. So will this eliminate the eligibility to qualify?
No, as a matter of fact, we got that question a lot, and Social Security does not count towards income. So no, it will not affect your ability to apply or to qualify.
Fantastic. Another question that came in is, now in the last week or so, with a lot of areas deeming real estate to be an essential service, but there's still limitations in place in many areas. how would that affect the ability to apply? If we're essential, but we're still kind of not, depending on the area, how would that affect our applications?
100%. Even though real estate is an essential business and you're able to function, there is a question on the application, and we've been reading about this for a long time. There are 11 options, and one of them in particular deals with independent contractors with report. So the answer choice is you're an independent contractor with reportable income, IRS Form 1099, and you are forced to stop working because COVID-19 has severely limited your ability to continue performing your customary work activities. So our attorneys have been looking at this for a long time, and it's part of our FAQ, it's on their actual application. And you could argue that even though we're an essential business right now, nothing is customary, right? We have to set appointments, we can't do open houses, our sellers are on the fence, our buyers are on the fence. So that's the one, piece that we're advising our members. Look, nothing is customary. Your ability to create the income you created last year or the year before is severely impacted by COVID-19. And you can honestly say that in your application.
Okay, perfect.
Does that answer the question?
Yes, thank you. Another question, we have one more here on the topic, is so an agent had several transactions that started in February or March, but then closed since, and the agent got paid, post shelter in place. So how would that affect their application? Because they did show income for March or April, but yet they were still impacted because of this happening, but they show income.
Yeah, this is the $1 million question, unfortunately, and the EDD has not issued specific guidance for this experience or this particular example, and we've had a lot of it. So our attorneys are saying, well, first of all, you can apply, but if you have income, your best bet is to apply after you receive the check, not before. And then if you do receive a check, so one of the things in the process of the pandemic unemployment assistance is that you have to certify, every 2 weeks, whether or not you're working, you're looking for work, you've got work, you've got a commission check. And so you have to be honest about that. And that may impact your benefit for that week, but we think it'll only be for that week. We still don't have firm confirmation from the EDD. We're trying. Our lobbying team in Sacramento has been in contact with the EDD, but it will affect realtors. Even though I know for sure those transactions were in the pipeline before we even knew what COVID-19 was, right? Mm-hmm. But this is just the way that the state government and the EDD are dealing with it, because if you do make money, then you don't qualify for unemployment. So our guidance is, yes, exactly. And that's what we're praying for, right? But our guidance is, if you expect a commission check coming in the next week, don't apply until after you get that commission check, right? Because after you get it is essentially when you would be eligible. So I hope that helps. I'm sorry. It is tough because we know that that's not the way real estate works, right? And you need all of those commission checks to pay your own business expenses, to pay your own mortgages, to feed your kids. I get it, but it just, again, you have to give the EDD credit for getting realtors into this, but there's also a lot of unknowns, and that's a big one.
Yes. So we'll move on to a few different topics, and then if there is any more Q&A, we can come back to that here at the end. But thank you for everything on the PUA, because that obviously is a great benefit right now for our agents to be able to apply for. But so next, let's talk about lending and financing. So we've seen a lot of hardening on restrictions. Credit scoring requirements have gone up dramatically, and so we did have a number of questions come in from some of our agents about that. So one of them, for instance, is lenders that are not under the Freddie or Fannie regulations. Do you see there being a big foreclosure impact this year from that?
That's a great question. We're not seeing a huge influx of foreclosures, and definitely not seeing any people being kicked out of their houses right now. What we did see in the run up from the 2008-2009 downturn was people coming in with stellar credit. They've been coming in with a lot of down payment, so that gives them a little padding as they go through a tough time right now. So we're not seeing a huge, like this huge wave of people not, because their interest rate went up. We got a lot of people in at a very low rate, and they're able. And I do want to really just put this out there. Call your lender. If your client has lost their job, or if one of the people in your sphere has lost their job, lenders are pretty relaxed. They're pretty. Of course, they want you to pay your mortgage, but they're doing what they can to help. And so you can try to work out individual modifications. And if you can't, we do have. We saw this in the last downturn. We have our transaction rescue, where our lender liaison had been going back and forth between the realtor and the lending institution to help people not lose their homes. And so that is also another benefit for realtors in California. So we have our transaction rescue hotline. If you need help, if your clients need help, just give us a call. It's 213-739-8383 or transactionrescue@CAR.org. And our lender liaison can help. And he's helped, get modifications. He's helped, with forbearance questions and all of that. So I think we're not going to see a repeat of what we saw in 2008, because there essentially no ninja loans, right? People came in with actual income, and hopefully some of these job losses are temporary, right? We've seen more job losses, 26 million in the last 5 weeks. And for the whole 2 years in 2008, 2009, we saw like 38 million. So what we do know is that's because of a shutdown in the government. What we hope and pray can get through this if they can, call their lender, talk to their lender, call us. We have resources for them as well, for you as a realtor to help them. So that's my thought on that. And I don't see a big, huge wave of foreclosures, especially in the jumbo markets and stuff like that. I will say that I don't think we're going to have a lot of what we're seeing in the market is that the top end of the market is a lot more impacted in terms of sellers pulling out, buyers on the fence. And then the lower end of the market, where people, let's just say apartment dwellers right now, just are desperate to get out of their apartment with their kids and buy a house. So we are seeing a little bit of that in the data.
So you don't think, with all the mortgage forbearances going on right now, obviously if they're Fannie or Freddie backed, there's some security there. But what about all those loans that aren't Freddie or Fannie backed, that are doing these forbearances? Do you see there being issues once that time frame comes up here in July?
Well, that's kind of where I was going. I hope not. I hope that people can get through and work one-on-one with their lender and their servicers, and also call us if you need to help one of your clients. I think that's an important piece. Their transaction rescue. We could put the number in the chat in the comments as well. It's 213-739-8383. And then we're not seeing, like I said, for all of the fundamentals, we're not seeing a huge, rise in payments just, growing overnight, right? Because that's what happened in 2008, 2009, where these mortgage payment resets, where the rate went up by, 1 or 2 full basis points, and 100 or 200 basis points, 1 or 2 full percentage points. And that put a huge strain on the mortgage market. We're not seeing that this time. We're seeing people still able to pay their mortgages, or, you know, in the case of Fannie and Freddie loans, take advantage of forbearance. And FHFA, the entity that oversees Fannie and Freddie regulations, they have said, this was our big worry, that forbearance is, you know, comes due at the end of the 4 months. And what FHFA has said outright is that it won't be a lump sum payment at the end of the forbearance period. They'll figure out a way to tack it on to the end, or, you know, amortize it over the next however long the loan period is for, so that it's not, you know, can you imagine after 4 months, you've been out of work, you're finally back to work, and you have to pay 4 months of mortgage? No.
Yeah.
It's just impossible, right? It's impossible. So it happened. So that was a good sign. That was a sigh of relief for a lot of people.
Yeah. And as much as I would like to see it be tacked on to the end of the mortgage, because the overall likelihood of keeping your mortgage for 30 years is slim to none. So
Right.
the chances of actually ever really repaying that is very slim. So I do anticipate a lot of the lenders out there will be looking at just tacking on little bits onto your, you know, payments, you know, for whatever the period would be to repay it in full.
Yeah. And I'm sure they will get their money, especially if people refi, you know, they're a smart group. But we also don't want undue stress on people who can't afford it. So that's a big deal.
So another question we have in regards to, you know, the like credit score requirements and everything else going on, you know, are you hearing about deals falling out because, you know, they're in escrow and all of a sudden the lender's requirements for credit scores increase? So are you seeing deals fall apart, and also are you seeing an uptick in seller financing because of this?
Well, I have not looked closely at data on seller financing, so I can't answer that question, but I will say that lending standards have tightened. I do think that anything that was in the pipeline before this happened. So, for example, I'll give you a personal example. I locked in my rate. I was refinancing my home. I locked in my rate on March 11th, which was the best time ever. I don't know, I got lucky. Like, the gods were shining down on me that day, and that's fine. I'm happy with that. I'll take it. But through that process, they had to call me several times to double check that I still had a job. And so they're doing things that they normally wouldn't need to do, but because this is such an uncertain time and people are losing their jobs here and there, they had to check in. And so, Chase came out and said, we're not taking anything under a 700 FICO. But those are for new mortgage applications. And I think the ones that were already applied, yeah, of course, there were several that fell out of escrow. And I don't think it was technically because of the financing piece. I do think a lot of buyers got cold feet. We started to see that a little bit in our data. I also think that buyers were not only getting cold feet, but asking for a concession in the price at the 11th hour. And sellers are digging in their heels and saying no. And so that was the main source of the fallouts, not necessarily financing. I think financing, as long as you had your job and you got in, you were able to take advantage of that. But going forward, you need a higher credit score. Banks and lending institutions are asking for more down. You know, it's somewhat like the credit crunch. Somewhat, because they need to protect their finances and they need to protect their balance sheets. So that means they're being ultra conservative. So that you're going to start to see that happen more and more, which honestly, I mean, you don't want lending standards to loosen because you don't want a repeat of 08 and 09, right? So it's this fine balance that we have to walk.
So speaking of interest rates, since, like you said, you got lucky and you got in at like the most opportune time with the refi.
I don't know how I did that.
I was about to sell my house and buy another property, and thinking interest rates were going to stay low, and now everything's kind of on hold with everything going on. But there are a lot of talks out there about what's going to happen with interest rates. So once this is all over, what are your thoughts? What are your feelings of where interest rates are going to go? Are they going to go up? Are we going to see them come back down? Even maybe beat that early May number with how low those were?
Honestly, I don't see them going down from a record like historical low. I really just don't. And I think any forecaster that will tell you exactly what they think is going to be wrong. I think that we only have one way to go from historic lows, and that's up, but I don't think it's going to shoot up. I do hear from the lending, we have, again, our lending arm and our relationships with the lenders, and through our transaction rescue component. And there, in a matter of days, we saw the rates go up from low threes to over 4 because of that risk factor. It was a risk factor that and they just couldn't get buyers to buy on the secondary mortgage market. So you did see a little bit of a spike. That could ease up in the next few months, hopefully, if we can start to get back on track with reopening safely the economic environment. But I don't think they're going to move a big way one way or the other. But I do think that they are headed up. They, in the long run, I think they're gonna slowly, gradually move up. But I don't see any huge spikes.
Well, let's hope that that's the case. So moving on, with all this going on, there's been definitely some opportunity out there. So talking about emerging opportunities, and what's going to be happening with the market moving forward. One of the questions that we did receive was, what do you see possibly happening with the rental market?
That's a tough one. Who asked that question? Kidding. It's hard because, so just know our main constituency and our main focus and mission is to help homeownership housing, right? And the property ownership rights. So the rental market is, for us, a smaller component. We have a lot of realtors that own second homes and rent them out, but it's not a big part of our constituency. That said, I think the rental market is in disarray right now. I mean, you have millions of people not paying their rent. There's a whole contingent of people saying don't pay May. That you had a lot of people not able to pay April. So if you're a landlord right now, it's a tough time. It's a tough time for you. And I don't know if you're an apartment dweller, as I mentioned earlier, and you're in this experience and the walls feel like they're closing in, homeownership housing looks pretty darn good. Right. And also, I think another opportunity for renters, especially as it pertains to all of the side members here, that I think the bounds of location have been lifted a little, right? I kind of regret buying my home in Los Angeles because it's like I could move. I can work remotely from anywhere. I'm very lucky, and I'll probably have to go into the office at some point soon. But you know what I mean? I mean, it just showed us all this huge opportunity that's in front of us, that we aren't necessarily bound by, location. And so renters who couldn't necessarily afford to live in the urban city in the area close to work can think about, well, if I only have to drive into the office once a week, I could go out into that suburb and buy a house that has a yard. You know what I mean? So it's just this huge opportunity for people that just wasn't there before. It was a big unknown. We always talked about remote working. We always talked about, the future of office work and the future of jobs. But this pandemic, as awful and how many lives it's taken, it also has given us this silver lining of seeing this remote environment and seeing it work. You know what I mean? So it's a double-edged sword, but I do think I do think it does give people who are strapped into a rental property or renting an apartment the ability to think about buying, to think about saving and looking at some down payment assistance options and be able to buy a home. It's the American dream, right?
It is. And I mean, luckily I'm on a little bit of property. And so that part is nice. I mean, my son's out there riding quads every day, and having a blast.
Awesome.
But now all of a sudden, the property that I thought was, of course, when I'm mowing it every Saturday, it feels like it's too much property. But then the rest of the week, it's like, okay, now I wish I had a little bit more because now I've been here so long. So
Yeah.
I think everybody probably feels that way, no matter probably how big or small the home is.
I know. I mean, I'm in a small little house, and it's like the walls still are closing in. So don't get me wrong. It is difficult for anybody in a situation like this. But it does give you that, that view of what could be, right? The opportunity is knocking. And that's great for real estate. It's great for realtors. It's great for your company. I mean, truly, we just have to get through this tough time.
And so another question we had come in was, are you seeing any trends emerge in consumer behavioral changes? Like what critical consumer needs should companies be preparing to address? Where do you see that change?
Well, that we just talked about one huge one, right? Like the ability to let, as long as the business opportunities exist, to let people work more remotely, to enable people to live the life and have that work-life balance, because it's proven to work, right? We have companies that, like, huge, Zillow and Microsoft and all these huge tech companies able to let their employees work from home, and that's a great thing, because I think a lot of time companies, the corporations, were worried about, well, if I let them work from home, they're just going to sit home and eat bonbons all day. And what this has proven is that no, they're working their butts off, right? So I think that's one piece. I also want to share some stats from our most recent Google poll. And so we ask a question every week, and we ask them, do you think it's a good do you think it's a good time to buy in California? Do you think it's a good time to sell? Well, before the pandemic, it was, for buyers, it was holding steady. About 28% think it's a good time to buy in California. So, but after the pandemic, it didn't really budge. About 27% still think it's a good time to buy, and the rest don't. But sellers, on the other hand, have really shifted. So this may filter into what we see in new listings coming down the pike. But sellers, it was about 60% thought, before pre-COVID, thought it was a good time to sell. And now that's down to 30%. So it just means that for realtors, it's going to be a tougher conversation for sellers right now. And so that's just, being able to set those expectations to your side members, to everybody listening, is sellers are on the fence, and sellers are pulling down their listings and, getting cold feet. And that has a downside effect on sales, because we need those listings. We need people, because what we do see on the flip side is buyers, as we talked about today, still want to buy. They want, as long as they have a job and as long as they have the wherewithal, they want to get in that house and actually want it even more, right? So I do see a little bit of that. We're seeing consumer confidence drop to, where it was in 2008. It was like a huge drop off. So I also think it's temporary. Again, I think it's temporary, and I think people will start to, see that hopefully small businesses can survive, and hopefully people will get back to work, and and hopefully we'll get a vaccine and go back to a quote unquote normal life. But it's all yet to be seen, right?
Hopefully sooner rather than later.
Yes, please.
So with that, we're going to now open it up. We have about just under 15 minutes left here. So we want to open it up to Q&A. So if anybody has any questions, please put them in the Q&A feature on the bottom of the screen, and we'll be happy to have Sara answer any of those questions. And Sara, we do have one that's popped up already, and that's asking about the May rent strike. So is there anywhere you can direct landlords for assistance with legal issues as to where, when they can evict, because those are not affected by COVID or still just not paying rent? So where's a good place we can direct our landlord clients?
Oh, that pesky May strike. Yeah, that's been really tough, especially for our members who have rental properties. There is our legal hotline, and they're taking calls, especially on this, because we do have a number of members that have rental properties and have that experience of not getting their May payment. So it's 213-739-8282, and they can answer any legal questions you have, landlord tenant. A lot of our questions are on landlord tenant. Again, that's for the realtor. It's not for the consumer, so they can advise you on what options there are available. Thank you, Wendy, for your question. I don't see any others.
If anybody else has a question, please put it in the Q&A for us.
I have a question. Do you have a polling feature? Or?
I don't know, Leonie, do you have a poll set up on here, or polling feature availability?
No, I don't think so. Or maybe are your buyers, just speaking of the consumer behavior, are buyers still willing and able and wanting to work with you to buy their home? People are raising their hands.
I'm seeing a few. And then I see, Ricky, you have your hand raised. And Liz, if you guys have, if you're raising your hands because you have clients, thank you. If you have questions, please put them in the Q&A. There's no availability for me to unmute you on this call. So we have another question that popped up, and that is, what is your recommended strategy for foreign investors right now? I have a few clients from Russia who are looking and buying investments here in the Bay Area.
Well, I don't know what the travel restrictions on Russia are, but I do think this kind of opens up another area of opportunity, and that is virtual showings and the use of virtual technology. Now, that may or may not help your client, because I know that people still want to see the home, but typically what we've seen is that people are more inclined to do a virtual transaction if they're not going to live in the home. So it depends on if it's a investment property or what they plan on moving to the United States. So I don't know. I think it's an opportunity for virtual. I also think it's going to be tough given the travel restrictions, given the social distancing. And I don't know about you, but I don't think I want to get on an airplane right now. I don't know how the clients feel about that, but it really is a case by case basis, and I don't particularly know what will happen for foreign buyers, especially in the Bay Area, where you have a lot of people that from Asian countries, from abroad, that want to buy, because the Bay Area is a tech hub, and the Bay Area has a lot of great schools. And we saw a huge percentage of the market from foreign investors, and you will start to see that kind of drop off a little bit, or a lot. But I haven't seen the numbers yet. We do an annual survey, and it's roughly about 15% investment buyers from foreign buyers. No, sorry, 10%, roughly about 10% foreign buyers. I will say that I expect that number to go down. And comfort level is another key aspect, right? How comfortable are people buying without seeing the property?
And another question that just came in, talking about visiting and seeing the property. There seems to be an emerging trend towards not staging vacant homes. Perhaps it's for a virus reduction standpoint, perhaps just the timing. Do you see any trends here? Yeah.
So John, thank you for that. I believe, and I will have to look at the CISA guidelines, but I believe that staging companies are not considered essential. So that could be a big factor on why people aren't staging. I also think it's, a little bit dangerous to bring furniture in and then have people come and touch the furniture and then have your staging teams take it out. So it's just, I think it's a matter of being able to clean it. And I know that people, we have these new forms. Our PED form, for example, is for people to go in and say, they understand the problem. They understand that there's a pandemic and they don't want to touch things, and they're, just saying, they get it, but I still want to see the house anyway, right? So it's just showing that, you've said we'll do our best to clean it, but the less surfaces, the less things that people can sit down and touch in an environment where we have an invisible enemy is probably better, and I think that's what you're seeing.
All right. Does anybody else have any questions they would like to ask Sara real quick before we wrap up? I'll give everybody a moment to add any questions if they have anyone. But Sara,
who's coming to Woman Up?
It's now virtual, correct?
It is. It is. We'll be virtual. We're working on a virtual company. Will not be Zoom. I promise you that. We were just talking about, oh, Katie, yay. We were just talking about Zoom fatigue and the thought of sitting for, more than 30 to 45 minutes on a Zoom call is pretty tough. So thank you all for hanging in there. And I promise you it will be fun for those who can join us.
So we have a couple more questions. Well, one is on Woman Up. They've not seen any emails on it. When should they expect to see those coming out?
So you haven't seen any emails on it because I was still in negotiations with the hotel. We have reached an agreement as of yesterday that we are going to move our physical in-person event at the Paseo in Orange County back to 2021. So it'll be August 31st through September 2nd, 2021. And now that we've reached that, we have the full reign to be able to go live and share that we're virtual. And we're looking at the same dates, September 1, 2, 3 for this year to have a virtual event. But we could change that because now we could do it next week if we wanted to, right? The main drawback from a in-person standpoint was the hotel and the dates. But now in this environment, we have the opportunity to do something different. So you haven't seen an email because we have not sent an email. We're planning that strategy this week, and so you'll get all the information as soon as we have it. So thank you for your question.
Perfect. And we did get one more question in terms of PPP and unemployment. Can you get both?
That's a tough one because it depends, right? So what we do know about the PPP is the Paycheck Protection Program. It's a small business administration loan. What we know about that loan is that it was a failed rollout. A lot of big Publicly traded companies receive that that loan. Not a lot of independent contractors and realtors receive that loan. If you have an experience like that you got a PPP loan and you're an independent realtor who got it for yourself, please let me know, because I would love to be able to know, privately, it won't be public, but to know if there were some success stories there, because we just didn't hear a lot. So the Paycheck Protection Program was designed for small businesses to pay their employees. So, for example, if you're at a company who got a PPP loan and you were getting paid through that PPP loan, no, you're not eligible for unemployment because you were getting paid. If you're an independent contractor who got a PPP loan for your individual, to pay your individual commissions, also no, because the unemployment eligibility is that you did not get paid, right? You're out of work, you're not getting paid. And as we talked about earlier with the commissions, you won't be eligible for unemployment the weeks you get commission. So the easy answer to that is no. The hard answer is we just don't know enough about it. It is, if you get both, it is considered double dipping, and you will have to report your earnings to the EDD. And in some cases, if there was double dipping that happened, you would have to pay the EDD back. And I don't know how that would affect the forgiveness of the PPP loan. So I would be cautious about that. It really depends on your individual experience and what you use the money for. And so if you really have a particular need, call us. Call the COVID relief hotline at C.A.R. It's 213-351. Oh gosh, now I forgot it again. 351, what was it? 8450. 351-8450. Okay? Because we can try to help you answer individual questions, although we can't tell you what to do.
And we did have an agent just share that they were.
Is there any more questions?
Story. We have an agent who received money into their bank account. The letter said that it depends on the number of employees, that her daughter had 9 employees and was able to receive a more significant amount of money.
Congratulations, Maya. And the reason why you received $1,000, so the EIDL is the Economic Injury Disaster Loans, rolled out through the Small Business Administration, and those forgivable. It's a forgivable grant, and it was up to $10,000. And so for independent contractors, just for yourself, it would have been $1,000, or for anybody like your daughter, employees, she got $9,000. So that congrats. Not a lot of people got those, and they are grants. They do not have to be paid back, which is so needed. I understand it's a tough time right now. So I had several calls with members who just were in a financial bind. So we love hearing those stories. Thank you for sharing, and keep them coming. You want to give them my email address, Casey, sarahs@car.org.
So yes, sarahs@car.org. I'll put that.
There's no H. There's no H in my name, so.
It's in the chat for those that need that. But it is time for us to wrap up. So, Sarah, I want to thank you for joining us today and providing such valuable content. And I know we're a day late, but happy birthday.
Thank you. I took the day off yesterday.
I'm sure much needed, I can imagine.
For sure.
So
awesome. Thank you.
So if anybody does have follow-up questions about the material today, please feel free to reach out to our team. It's community@sideinc.com. Again, community@sideinc.com. And don't forget to tune in next week. We have another episode of our Ask Me Anything series. Joining us next Tuesday, May 12th, At 2 o'clock Pacific, 4 o'clock Central, we have Paul Levine, who is a side investor and the former president of Trulia. He'll be speaking with our CEO, Guy Gal. So Guy and Paul are both phenomenal. So please sign up for that one. It's a much-watched event for sure. And then again, on-demand recording of this will be available using the same link that you clicked on to join the call today. So again, you can watch that at any time, or feel free to share that with your sphere. So again, thanks for tuning in, and everybody have a great week. And thank you again, Sarah.
Thank you. My pleasure.